ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਜਾਗਰਣ ਐਸੋਸੀਏਟ ਸਪਾਂਸਰ ਆਫ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਡਿਬੇਟ ਹੁਣ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਵਿੱਚ।
Hello and welcome to Prime. We also welcome the viewers of G Punjab in the US. Let's begin with the headlines. The festival of Dussehra, symbolizing the victory of good over evil, celebrated throughout the country. President Pratibha Patil, Vice President Muhammad Hamid Ansari and Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh greet people on the occasion. Farooq Abdullah comes to Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister's rescue as demand mounts for his resignation over the death of National Conference worker. Says the truth about Muhammad Yusuf's death will emerge after the judicial probe. The man who transformed technology is dead. Apple co-founder Steve Jobs loses battle to pancreatic cancer at the age of 56. Jobs died a day after Apple unveiled its latest iPhone 4S. And a perennial favorite Swedish poet Thomas Tranströmer finally wins the $1.5 million Nobel Prize for Literature. One of Sweden's most distinguished poets, Tranströmer's work has been translated into 30 languages. It's 124th birth anniversary of Le Corbusier today. The legendary architect was the one who envisioned Chandigarh and executed it to perfection. In 1959, Pandit Nehru described Chandigarh as the biggest example in India of experimental architecture. But 50 years down the line, many say Corbusier's experiment has gone awry. Today, the city beautiful is struggling to cope up with the exploding population, traffic and development. The city is wilting under pressures from its periphery. So is change a way out? To discuss this, we are joined in the studios by Professor Rajneesh Vatas, Professor, former Principal, Chandigarh College of Architecture, Madhu Sareen, architect and town planner, and George Jacob, also an architect and town planner. Welcome to the discussion. Professor, I'll start with you. Today we are remembering the great genius. Is there an occasion to celebrate?
I think it's both an occasion to celebrate and to introspect. Celebrate that our founding fathers of the city of Chandigarh had the great courage and vision to take the leap forward. It was an adventure which I think only guts could have, guts could have enabled to take such a. We were paupers after, and we had so many other problems. So that great idea has took seed and flowered so well, and that part is the courage to do something so adventurous is something to celebrate and to salute. The founding fathers of not only of the city but of the nation. At the same time, I think there's a lot of introspection and thinking required to be done, because the great Indian chaos of the cities is beginning to manifest even in the most meticulously planned and carefully crafted city. So we are almost, our chaos is irrepressible. You can't put the lid on it even with the best of planning. So that's why I say that.
Okay, I'll just come back to you. Ms. Sareen, what is the best tribute to the great man Le Corbusier?
What the best tribute? I think the best tribute that we can pay,
yes,
as residents of Chandigarh, and as people like me who've grown up with the city, is to protect the essence of his planning, his concepts, and yet not get strangled by, Corbusier said this, now we can't do, because things are changing, the world is moving on, the city also needs to adapt and grow. And I don't think Corbusier would have wanted, the city to be converted into a fossil. So I think that's the best tribute we could pay.
George, a lot of people are wondering, what does the city really stand for? Is it really an education city? Is it a, should it develop as a heritage city? Is it an IT destination? What?
I think every city should have, different facets and different dimensions. I think Chandigarh was built as a symbol of emergent India, independent India, and I think it should celebrate that symbol, and there are many ways of celebrating that symbol. So if it can have, all those dimensions that you just mentioned, and reflect the change that is happening in this country and internationally, I think it would pay a proper tribute to Corbusier.
But is the city really reflecting the change that is happening to the country?
It really hasn't. It has been kind of static, and it has been sort of inward looking. So it hasn't really resonated with what is happening elsewhere. And sometimes when cities become static, they run the risk of endangering themselves.
Professor, a lot of people say that what has happened to Chandigarh is primarily because of the division of Punjab, and Chandigarh becoming a victim to pressures from all sides. You also agree with that?
No, that is fundamentally correct, because it was meant to be an administrative city for one composite state, and it has now three competing, you can say, destinies. Now the question is, we also have to ask at the same time, while it might have led to the pressures and the, busting at its seams, those kind of problems. But the other side of it, if one was to look at, as an economic asset to the nation, the idea has been so successful, the idea of Chandigarh, that its success is becoming its unmaking. But at the same time, I would rather have a city which over succeeds, and falls a little on the benchmark of index of quality of life, than a failed, sleepy city of green hedges and greybeards, as Khushwant Singh once said.
I thought that has changed now.
And I said, thank God it's not remained that. So in a way, I am entirely delighted that it's so vibrant, and yet it's not overboard. It's still a wonderful city, and we can hold on to a lot.
Now, one of the challenges the city faces today is which way to grow. I mean, should the growth be vertical, or should it be subterranean development?
I am very clear in my mind that we don't have to be either or. You see, Chandigarh will always have to carry its heritage respectfully and yet keep growing. As they say that just because a grandson has arrived at the house, you don't throw the grandfather. So we will have to carry both the things and it's possible. And Chandigarh doesn't have to become another you can say cheap imitation of Gurgaon or Bangalore, for that matter. We can have the sacred part of it. It's like Lutyens Delhi, and then you have many Delhis around it. So it's something which will have to be a very fine balance, and we should aim at that, and we should not try to wear all the hats.
That should not try and wear all the hats. Ms. Sareen, it is felt that if the city was to grow vertically, it would go against the grain of Corbusier's thinking and planning.
Actually, on the contrary, had Corbusier had his way, Chandigarh would not have been a low-rise, sprawling, low-density thing. He wanted skyscrapers. In fact, both Pandit Nehru and the Indian Punjab government people had to tell him that, look, we don't have the technology, we don't have the money, we have lots of land, so we are going to be low density. But then how come
there are a lot of height restrictions in the northern sectors?
That is the way the old framework was developed, and today, but even then, you see, Corbusier's concept was, he wanted high density. Cities need to have a higher density to be really, economical and workable. And his notion was that the second phase of Chandigarh should not consist of another extension physically, but densification of phase 1. The problem today is that everyone in phase 1 is so much in love with their nice, beautiful bungalows and low rise that no one will let you touch it. but really it actually makes very little economic sense.
Now, Mr. Reem, there is a lot of construction activity going on around the city. So how can whatever is going around the city be integrated along with the initial concept of Chandigarh?
See, if the initial concept of Chandigarh had been protected, none of the development around should have been there at all.
But now since it is there, which way should we go?
I really don't know. I think it's kind of urban development out of control. It's going all over the place, and there is so much money in it, in real estate development. So whether it's state governments or developers or middle class people looking for property, a lot of the time for investment, not necessarily for, you look at Mohalli. I mean, I'm shocked. It's what, 25, 30 years old, and look at the population, it's just above 1 lakh. I mean, and yet they are going all around, and there are a lot of buyers.
In fact, the whole region is developing into something which can be termed as the state capital region. It's almost like the national capital region of Delhi now.
Yeah, it's becoming a regional hub, no doubt about it. But
yes,
it's going. I mean, already we violated a very fundamental concept of Le Corbusier, of having a very clear, distinction between the urban and the rural, and not letting urbanism sprawl endlessly. And the way things are going, in another 10-15 years, we will be stuck in traffic jams. Hopefully the metro will start working by then.
George, what is your choice? I mean, should the city grow vertically, or should it be subterranean development, or maybe a mix of both, as the professor said?
No, I would agree with the professor that it's a mix. There is no magic one single solution. The thing is, if it goes subterranean and it maintains its current mood and style and rendition, then the subterranean has its own challenges. It has to be clean, it has to be secure, it has to be functional, it has to be it has to have certain elements of functionality that permit a subterranean culture. For example, Toronto has 11 square miles of underground city, and the underground city is super clean, and there are no smells there, it's secure, there is a path that connects one subway station to another subway station. So you can actually take a walk in the middle of winters and go around the city underground. So whatever subterranean development happens has to be thought out for its expansion, because population is going to grow, the demands on the city are going to grow, the systems are finite. So one has to be constantly aware of the fact that the pressures on the system will continue to grow, regardless
but
of which
Chandigarh faces a very peculiar problem. There is so much construction going on all around that there are fears that some of these little townships that are coming up around Chandigarh, they could actually dwarf the city of Chandigarh.
Well, I would disagree, because Chandigarh has its own identity. I'll give you an example. In Singapore, there is a place called Far East Square. Now, Far East Square is actually surrounded by really high rises. You're talking 80 to 100 floors. And this Far East Square has kept its integrity. It's a low rise, low development, heritage cluster in the middle of a very high rise capital. So there are ways of protecting the flavor of what Chandigarh stands for.
But I'm not sure if one can actually make a difference between where Chandigarh ends and where Mohali starts, really.
I know it's becoming difficult.
It's a seamless integration. They have carried the same road system. But
and I don't think there are any restrictions, Professor, as to how Mullampur, let's say a new township which is coming up, are there any height restrictions?
No, they are claiming, saying that their statements are that it will be eco. They have given it the title of eco city, which is, I think, just a market branding. But I'd like to come to one point about this Chandigarh adding, all around it layers, and the fear that whether we should go subterranean or vertical.